Perhaps some of you might feel that our talk tonight should be about things going on in our country, but plenty has been said today about it in the news and elsewhere with all the people you might have come across, and so we'll talk about something else, because my feeling is that it is our duty as Buddhists to lift ourselves as best we can into a place of practice in which we are not necessarily unperturbed by what is going on, but we understand the field in which we find the dynamic of practice is most resonant. So I found this piece, this is quite way opposite from anything that we would think that we would talk about in relationship to today's news, but I think I might have spoken about this before. I can't remember. I might have, but tonight is quite different. This is a word that we find in Zen practice particularly. We find it in our literature, and we find it in poetry and in our calligraphy. And partly this is because we are coming into the end of summer, and the eclipse is happening on Monday night, and so there are many wonderful things happening, and even while there are so many terrible things happening. But this is the word leisure. And at first we might think it's just hanging around, sitting with your feet spread out in front of you, drinking beer under a tree somewhere. But when Dogen Zenji talks about leisure, or in the Zen field, we are talking about being at leisure in the Dharma. That is, sailing in the river of the Dharma at leisure, maybe even thinking of going on an inner tube down the river at your leisure, but this is the whole Dharma. And the resting place, it's the resting place of maybe the mountain of the Buddha, where we are undisturbed, we are unfettered, we are at leisure for some time. So I have this poem by Dogen Zenji, and maybe you give that out for me, please. Pass that out. So you have to get up and go over there. Thank you. So I'll read the poem first, and then after that we'll go back and we'll read it a second time, and we'll take up the footnotes. And what I would like us to do tonight, as best we can, is to just ferret out and try and parse out this poem that Dogen Zenji is getting at, and just have a little bit of play with it, as some of you are going on holiday and going on vacation and taking your leisure out wherever you go. So I thought that we would do this just as a bit of a refuge from other kinds of dialogue that are going on in other places around our country. So this is the 6 verses at the time of leisurely seclusion. Though settled, no longer picking up or discarding, at the same time before me myriad things appear. Within Buddha Dharma from now on, seeking minds abandon. After this, my activity will just follow conditions. Last night, the wooden man broke from his roots and left. How the pillars and lanterns yearn for his kindness. Those who share the same way know going beyond the world. Do not allow this movement to overturn heaven and earth. Encountering whatever meets the eye, all is intimate. In sitting, lying, or walking meditation, the body is coming completely real. When someone asks the meaning of this, a speck of dust appears within the Buddha eye treasury. The great function manifests and hits our eyes afresh. And yet, how can we present this truth? A sad person should not speak to sad people. Talking to sad people, sadness will kill them. In birth and death, we sympathize with ceasing, then arising. Both deluded and awakened paths proceed within a dream. And yet, there's something difficult to forget. In leisurely seclusion at Fukakusa, sound of evening rain. Cool wind just blew through, awakening echoes of autumn. The weather, refreshing and clear, bears new fruit. Bearing new fruit, fragrance fills the world. Where we cannot escape, we intimately hear. It's a little difficult maybe, but let's see what we can do with this. We're not going to come to terms with it, and there are many footnotes here that I disagree with. So it's a question of interpretation, which everyone is free to have in a poem like this. So let's read it again, and we'll come to the footnotes and read the footnotes. So, though settled, no longer picking up or discarding. No longer picking up or discarding refers to not choosing in practice, even between enlightenment and delusion. Manzan changes the first line to forgetting both picking up and discarding. My thoughts are settled. So here he's showing a different interpretation or a different translation or a rewriting of that particular line. At the same time, before me, myriad things appear. Within Buddha Dharma from now on, seeking minds abandoned. After this, my activity will just follow conditions. Last night, the wooden man broke from his roots and left. Wooden man is literally wooden person, but this might likely be a reference to the wooden man and stone woman of Dongshan Langzhe's Song of the Precious Mirror Samadhi. See Dharma Hall Discourse 187 in Volume 3, Note 5. Roots might refer to sense faculties, attachment to which he is getting free from, but also the image here might refer to a wooden person, like a tree leaving its roots, like home leaver monks. Once again, notice, it might mean this. It's possible. Back to the text. How the pillars and lanterns yearn for his kindness. Those who share the same way know going beyond the world. Do not allow this movement to overturn heaven and earth. Encountering whatever meets the eye, all is intimate. In sitting, lying, or walking meditation, the body is completely real. When someone asks the meaning of this, a speck of dust appears within the Dharma eye treasury. The last two lines might also be read. If someone asks the meaning of this, within the Dharma eye treasury is a speck of dust. This might imply that all phenomena or dusts are included in the intimacy of the Dharma eye treasury. The great function manifests and hits our eyes afresh, and yet, how can we present this truth? A sad person should not speak to sad people. Talking to sad people, sadness will kill them. The last two lines appear as an added saying in Heikigan Roku, case 3, and Shouyo Roku, case 30, see Cleary and Cleary, Blue Cliff Record, page 20, and Cleary, Book of Serenity, page 135, part of a particular koan. In birth and death, we sympathize with ceasing, then arising. Both deluded and awakened paths proceed within a dream, and yet there's something difficult to forget. In leisurely seclusion at Fukakusa, sound of evening rain. The sound of rain is pleasant, but it recalls the tears of sadness of birth and death, which Dogen will not forget, even in peaceful seclusion. Although we do not agree with their interpretation, a few people have read this verse as expressing Dogen's fond memory of the sound of rain in Fukakusa after moving to Eiheiji. That's kind of my interpretation, the second one. So, even though the editors of this particular text disagree with that. So, cool wind just blew through, awakening echoes of autumn. The weather, refreshing and clear, bears new fruit. Bearing new fruit, fragrance fills the world. Where we cannot escape, we intimately hear. Well, difficult poem, I think, to parse out, but we can try, and I hope everybody will contribute in this, because I don't have it all parsed out myself, so I count on you to give some insight into this. There are several things that I disagree with in some of the footnotes, so anyway, so those settled, no longer picking up or discarding. So we can easily agree with that. We can see that footnote, no longer picking up or discarding, not choosing in practice, even between enlightenment and delusion. And here we are in this place of leisure in which there's no need to pick or discard. This is Dogen's teaching about leisure, that when we go past the mind of discrimination, we are at leisure because we don't have to worry about choosing anything, or we're just at ease wherever we are with whatever arises. We needn't worry. At the same time before me, myriad things appear. So this is Dogen also. At the same time, he's at great leisure, and the mind of enlightenment is coming toward him. In earlier texts, Dogen talks about the myriad things come forward and awaken us. So here he is. Myriad things appear. Buddha Dharma from now on, minds abandoned. The seeking mind is abandoned. So Buddha Dharma from now on, minds abandoned. You don't have to worry about mind appearing or mind disappearing or what have you. There it is. He's just Buddha Dharma, just being at leisure in the Buddha Dharma. And after this, my activity will just follow conditions, whatever arises and falls. Kind of nice, very liberating, very easy going, simple. Kind of, on vacation, lying on the beach, right? You just don't have anywhere to go. I mean, we can think of it that way. And I think that when we talk about leisure, we can think about those times in which we are at complete relaxation with ourselves. We're lying on the beach, the ocean is coming in and out, the beautiful sun is there, and we're under a wonderful umbrella, and we don't have to worry about anything, we don't care about what time it is, and we can just watch people going in and out of the water, and maybe we're lying there and maybe somebody kicks a ball and lands on our blanket. That's something arising, right? That's a condition happening. So we don't have to worry about it. We just send the ball back and enjoy, throwing the ball back to some people who are playing ball on the beach. That's this activity, just following the condition as it arises, and the condition of the ocean coming in and out, and the sun moving in the sky. All of these things are part of those conditions. That's the simple activity of mind at ease, at leisure. So if you've got anything, please jump in. If you have anything to say, please. Yes, please.
Wanted to, I guess, the leisure that Dogen is talking about isn't inactivity.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, we're always doing something.
Correct.
What he's pointing to me, is how we're doing the doing.
Yes, right, right.
And part of that is setting aside discrimination. and as you said, going with the flow. The inner tube
Right.
thing keeps coming to mind.
Yes, yeah.
So
even if we are out gardening, or we're chopping wood, or we're mowing, or we're raking, or whatever it is we're doing, this is leisure. Even though we don't think of it as such. But in Zen practice, this is the mind of leisure. Certainly, leisure never ends. Didn't we paint that in calligraphy, in the calligraphy class? Leisure never ends.
Not this one.
We didn't.
I meant to. I'm so sorry. I meant to. We couldn't do everything. But it's a famous calligraphy that is painted. Leisure never ends. So we're always in the mind of Buddha. So last night, the wooden man broke from his roots and left. So we have, when the wooden man begins to sing, the stone woman gets up to dance. That is the line in the Precious Mirror Samadhi, the song of the Jewel Mirror Samadhi. And this is generally thought to be about the mind of discrimination, the wooden man and the stone woman. It's not anything so mysterious, but it's given to us in very poetic terms. The wooden man begins to sing, the stone woman gets up to dance. It's not within feeling or discrimination. So we don't discriminate when anything arises. We just go with it as it happens. So last night the wooden man broke from his roots and left. Yeah. What do you think?
So I've often found this teaching of no mind sort of curious and kind of out of place a little bit. It's sort of been an odd teaching, I think. You know, everything is Buddha, everything is mind, and then you get to know mind.
Yes.
But I know that you've been thinking about walls lately.
Oh, yes.
And
Not the one in Mexico, by the way. Yeah.
I don't even know what happened today. I was sort of thinking that your mind can be a wall itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, some people would even talk about like a lens, like even a window is a lens, or I think one could even see a window as a wall, sort of. It is dividing, even though it isn't distorting.
Yes.
And so I don't know. I think this idea of sort of breaking the wall on one's own mind to where you don't conceive of experience happening within or through it, but just sort
It's
of
just happening.
letting go of that idea of mind itself.
Yeah, that's leisure. It's non-seeking.
I think that's sort of how I interpret the first half of this poem, is I think him sort of talking about that idea of
Non-seeking. Maybe that's an easier way. You can't get away from mind. Even if you say no mind, it's still mind.
But
There's no such thing as not mind.
to experience, I don't know, I found in myself that that's sort of, I think, how I experience the vast majority of time. It's that I'm experiencing through my mind, that things are happening in it. Through my mind, I'm seeing phenomena unfold.
Sure, but it's not the mind that's seeking. It's just happening. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Then we're on the same page. That's good. And that's what Dogen is talking about, because that is at leisure as life simply happening.
But
Yeah?
oh yeah, go.
So I just wanted to clarify for myself whether you're talking about simply observing mind
Yeah.
versus reaching mind, or
Sure, reaching,
Rather mind.
searching mind is the word I'm saying that I think is appropriate here. That Dogen is saying in the leisure, we simply rest the seeking mind, looking for anything in particular, that simply life is happening. Of course it comes through your mind. There's no other possible way.
that's just experience.
Yeah, to be alive is to be mind.
But it seems that one can loosen it's sort of like an extra step. I mean, whatever, like thinking that the mind is, you're experiencing things through the mind. I mean, you're just experiencing things.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. And you have to, that's mind.
right.
Mind is just experiencing
And you
things.
don't have to think about it.
No, it's leisure. You are at leisure with it. So you're not searching for where it's coming from or what to do about it or anything like that. You just let go of search. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So question then,
Yeah.
what is he breaking from when he's breaking from his roots?
Yeah.
His attachments or his past?
Perhaps, very likely. Yeah. Yeah. So that explanation down here too is maybe home leaver monks who, you know, break from the home connection, or the other one given here, free from, but also the image here refers to a wooden person or somebody who, sort of an uptight person who breaks free and lets go of the restraints or whatever restraints have been holding on to them and restricting them, possibly. And
Just kind of my feeling when I saw the word wooden was kind of inflexible.
yes, 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 yeah.
It's too metaphorical, but
Yeah. But here it is also like a tree leaving its roots. So is that a tree falling down, I suppose? A tree leaving its roots. Like a tree, comma, leaving its roots, comma. Or like a tree, comma, something leaving its roots. I don't think it means the tree leaving its roots. It must mean like a tree. A wooden person, like a tree that is fixed in a certain place. However much it may express, it cannot leave where it is. Or someone leaving its roots, yeah, or, yeah.
I don't know what to say. I am really confused by this, by these lines, because it's followed by how the pillars and lanterns yearn for his kindness.
Yeah.
As if, he's left, and so maybe that's still a good thing. He's free.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's those who share the same way, no going beyond the world. I could see that being home leavers or anyone who has liberated.
Sure. Yeah.
But then what do not allow this movement to overturn heaven and earth. Anybody? I don't know.
Anybody got any?
Thoughts about that?
Yeah. Is it?
for me it feels like it's no going beyond, or no overturning heaven and earth. You're not leaving behind the world when you're taking on this journey. Right? You're not leaving anything behind. And you're not going to anything new. You're just grounded in the world still. So no going beyond the world. There's no escaping your experience.
Yes. Or form. Or without form, there is no expression. But it is difficult. I don't know if that's what it means.
Interpretation's always hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I guess I just kind of read it as like a playful way of saying don't get carried away.
That could be, yeah.
See something.
Not allow this movement to overturn heaven and earth.
Mm-hmm. That could be it. I like both of those.
Yeah,
are helpful.
yeah, I do too. And I think that all of these interpretations are relevant. Poems are not to be arrested in an absolute fixed meaning. They're supposed to sort of wander around in us, not that we get caught in searching mind, but that we sort of reside with the music of it. And its meaning appears to us now and then in different moments. It means different things to us. So it's supposed to resonate in that way. But Dogen can be very obtuse and difficult. But
would it be a stretch
Mm-hmm.
to say, for some reason, when I read that first line, merging of difference and unity
Yes.
came to mind, and the root, the word that came to me with that is the skandhas, and broke from his roots. In other words, letting go of self.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And in other words, in leisure, we don't have to be anybody.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
We
That's-
just,
no, it's leisurely seclusion.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be anything special. Or anything.
Although I'm not sure how it transitions, like Allison was saying, the pillars and lanterns yearn for his kindness.
So, it's possible. Maybe Dogen always dwells in space also. So maybe he's talking about that when we leave a place, we leave our roots behind, we leave some imprint, or we leave some shul.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Shul, S-H-U-L. Shul happens when you are in a place, when you leave behind a piece of yourself, even though you could totally go. You leave an imprint. Even indoors. Native Americans, for instance, are really good at tracking. So if I walked across this rug, Native American could come in and track my footprints, even on a carpet. And in shul, we leave behind a piece of an atmosphere of ourselves. It's a wonderful notion. There's also a video we showed when our gardener was here, and the birds are flying across the sky, and when they do, these incredible cameras pick up the trails of the birds through the air. They leave a visible trail that we can't see, but a very, very excellent high-speed camera can pick up the trail of the bird. So it's like streaks going across through the air when birds fly. That's shul also. They leaving behind a trace.
Is that an eddy that
No.
on the air?
Mm-hmm.
Eddy? Like,
No, it's a
A turbulence.
straight line. It's like a jet stream. A bird flying through the air will leave a jet stream, essentially. As we leave traces of our zazen in the room when we leave the zendo. Yeah, so we do. So that's sort of what I think about how the pillars and lanterns yearn for his kindness, that we have been there, or somebody who had lived in a certain place and then left, the roots and left, that something was left behind. The kindness of the person who had been there was left behind in the pillars and the walls. We leave the kindness of our cleaning the zendo, for instance. That's the kindness of our work. And we leave that behind and we go on to something else. And of course, that he applies that, what do you call that, an anthropomorphic or something, that the pillars and lanterns could yearn for kindness is inappropriate we don't do that in English literature. What's it called? When you turn it into a human, having human emotions, and that something has human emotions, and that's not possible. But I think that might be what it might be referring to. Might be. I don't know. I'm guessing now.
That's right, anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic. Thank you. Thought that's
There's a
correct.
word for that, and I don't remember what it is.
Anthropomorphic.
I know, but there's another word for that. Doing that, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I
But
was.
I think that's what it might mean.
Well, I was thinking, how there's a resonance. So this is just a poetic touch on the resonance that is left
Yes.
when someone leaves.
Right.
That it's felt.
Yes. Right. And then in the next line, those who share the same way know going beyond the world. So this is those who have taken up the Dharma, those who take up practice, for instance, know the same way. We know the same way together. So, and then do not allow this movement to overturn heaven and earth. Then, encountering whatever meets the eye, all is intimate. So here Dogen once again is asking us to understand the you can relax your legs and sit on the edge. Yeah. That when we realize the skandhas, as we were talking about, when we realize that eyes, ears, nose, mouth, tongue, body, mind, color, sound, nose, smell, are all empty of themselves. And when we understand that, we are completely intimate with everything. So whatever meets the eye, we are intimate with whatever meets the eye. Also, whatever meets the eye has to be in us. It's not out there. It's in us. I cannot see anything in this room except by right of its being inside me. So it is most intimate then. So, and then in sitting, lying, or walking meditation, the body is completely real. When someone asks the meaning of this, a speck of dust appears within the Dharma eye treasury. So that is the footnote that I disagreed with. To me, that meant that when someone asks the meaning of this, meant that we were reverting to language that could not possibly express the total intimacy of the experience. So we speak of the dust then as something that obscures the experience of the Dharma. Anyway, that's how I take it more than the way that was explained. I don't know about you.
Could it be the dust of discrimination?
Sure, the same
Creeping
thing.
back into...
Right, yeah, that's how I took it, in that sense.
Yeah, and I was thinking the seeking mind has taken up seeking again. We want some explanation, or and then we lose the experience of intimacy.
That's right. We've stepped outside in the discriminating mind. So,
How would you... Is there a difference between seeking and exploring?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think yes.
I think so. I think the seeking mind, when I say that, not that we don't seek or that we shouldn't seek, because we do. We come to practice because we are seeking, which to me in some ways is a little bit deeper than exploring even. We are seeking something that to show us who we are, or to show us the truth of ourselves, and so we seek the mind of awakening. So, in an exploring sense, we might explore the language around something, or I don't know. Anyway, that's how I take it. But you might feel differently about what those words,
I just
how they resonate.
with seeking, like the way that you described it, it's seeking what is true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there is seeking what we want to be true,
Yeah.
which is discriminating, as opposed to maybe,
Sure. That to me might be hoping.
which is fine, I think, so long as you know that you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Typically, you don't.
typically. But I think that, I don't know, I guess I just really, with language, I think I interpret this mostly as him talking about letting go of exploratory mind, even.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to be done. Nothing to be found out. You're in this leisurely seclusion. This is a special time that Dogen Zenji took to just let down. And so did the Buddha. The Buddha during the summertime, during the summer rest time, they would go to the monastery and they would just sit under a tree and let the rains fall during the monsoons and just relax and restore themselves and not try to do too much. And that is necessary time. And so I think this is Dogen Zenji, just not do anything. Here we go.
I apologize. I have to pick up my family from the airport.
Of course. Oh, please take the poem with you, and you can suffer it over with it. Thank you, Amir. Take care. Safe driving. Safe travels. Thank you. Yeah. I guess it's late. I didn't look at the clock.
It's 10:02.
Okay, we'll finish up. We'll finish up then. Yeah. So then the great function manifests and hits our eyes afresh. And yet, how can we present this truth? So it's impossible to say, how can we show this? A sad person should not speak to sad people. Talking to sad people, sadness will kill them. I thought that was so interesting, that little piece. Very Confucian. So, in another place, Dogen is quoting the Buddha. And he's talking about withdrawing also in the same kind of way, this quietude. So I'll just read this little paragraph to you. So, O you monks, if you seek to be tranquil and quiet, this is the Buddha. O you monks, if you seek to be tranquil and quiet, liberated from the insistence of the defiling passions, at ease and content, then you should part company with confusion and bustle, and dwell at your ease in some solitary place. The person who dwells in quietude continually forsakes what those in the heavens esteem so highly amongst themselves. Therefore, withdraw from those about you as well as from other crowds, and, in a place of solitude apart from them, reflect on the source of the eradication of suffering at your leisure. If you are one who enjoys the company of others, then you will take on the woes of their company, just as with a flock of birds that gather in some huge tree, there is the lament of dead branches breaking off under their weight. When the world binds itself around us, we drown in the suffering of such company, just as an old elephant, sunk down in mire, is unable to drag himself out. This is what I call distancing yourself from those about you. Whew. I don't know where Sangha comes in. But even when you are a monk in the monastery and you are a member of a Sangha, you are urged to take solitary time. You are urged to go to the mountains. There's always a hut up the mountain a little bit where you, one by one, the monks take their turns going up into solitary practice to feel some leisure, to feel the mind settle down, and to just feel some contentment of not having to participate or respond to all of the people around them. And so we encourage that in our lineage also, in the lineage of Ryokan-san, to take the time for leisure practice, for solitary leisure. So, then, in birth and death, we sympathize with ceasing, then arising. Both deluded and awakened paths proceed within a dream, and yet there's something difficult to forget. In leisurely seclusion at Fukakusa, sound of evening rain. So here, the footnote is saying that this is Dogen reflecting upon his sadness, maybe because of the line before it. Yet there's something difficult to forget. In leisurely seclusion at Fukakusa, sound of evening rain. There's always something difficult to forget, right? cool wind just blew through, awakening echoes of autumn. The weather, refreshing and clear, bears new fruit. Bearing new fruit, fragrance fills the world. Where we cannot escape, we intimately hear. So even in leisurely seclusion, there's something of ourselves we cannot escape, that we have appeared, that the body gets hungry or has needs. But when we are there in that space, or even realizing or being aware of our solitude or being aware of ourselves, whatever we hear is most intimate. So I hope you go off and have great leisure.
Thank you.
This is all for you, Allison.
Yes, I know.
This whole poem. I felt I just could not deal with talking about that stuff.
So, just really quick,
Yeah.
this last line where we cannot escape, we intimately hear, I thought of that as possibly just being absolutely present, with no thought
Sure.
of escape.
Yep.
And
That's
that we are
perfectly fine.
intimately.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, we are here.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot escape that you are here unless you want to die right now.
Right. Wherever we are, we're
Yeah.
here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wherever we are, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. So, yeah. Cannot escape from that. That's our existential problem, right? Cannot escape. We cannot escape until we die. And who wants to do that?